Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Philosopher. I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're already resting beneath a soft blanket, lying back with the dim light of the evening gently brushing your walls, or maybe just listening with your eyes half closed, this is your time. Time to slow down, to soften the sharp edges of the day, to breathe gently, and to let your mind, that beautiful, busy, brilliant mind, settle into stillness. Tonight, we're not racing toward answers. We're not solving puzzles or chasing achievements. We're going inward, on a soft, slow journey into the quiet, hidden world of the mind, and how sleep, the most natural of mysteries, becomes its gentle healer. Now, if you find your thoughts wandering, that's all right. That's what thoughts do. You can picture them like birds, flying through a sky that gets darker and quieter with every passing minute. Some thoughts will land, and some will drift away. You don't need to catch them, just let them come and go. The mind, your mind, is always working, even when you're just sitting, even when you're staring into space or sipping tea. It's weaving together thoughts, stitching together memories, analyzing sounds and colors and words, even the ones you're not aware of. It's like a tireless librarian, filing away pages in a library that never closes, or a lighthouse, scanning the dark sea for ships, always shining, always alert. But even lighthouses, even librarians, need rest. You see, the mind doesn't come with a flashing red warning light when it's tired. It doesn't wave a flag that says, "Hey, I've been sorting your emotions for 14 hours straight. Could I have a nap now?" It speaks in gentler ways, through little forgettings, through irritability, through a gaze that drifts off mid-sentence, through that strange feeling that the world is going too fast or that you're slightly behind it. That is the whisper of a mind that needs rest. In the quiet hours of the night, something ancient begins to stir inside you. Not a loud machine, not a clever app, just something deeply human, a longing for sleep. Sleep, dear listener, is not a weakness. It is not wasted time. It is the most generous thing you can give to your brain. Because while you sleep, oh, how wondrous, your mind doesn't stop. It simply changes its pace. It stops reacting and starts repairing, stops defending and starts dissolving, stops remembering and starts refreshing. Imagine this. Inside your head is a great garden, and each thought you've had today, every moment of joy, confusion, curiosity, even worry, planted something in that garden, a seed, a leaf, a weed, a flower. And now, in the stillness of night, your mind becomes the gardener, quiet, careful, tending to every little stem, pulling out what doesn't serve you, gently watering the ideas that matter, letting go of the ones that don't, all while you float in sleep, never even noticing the magic happening behind your closed eyes. It is in this beautiful garden, in this soft soil of night, that the healing begins. The healing of overthinking, the mending of frayed emotions, the rewiring of tangled thoughts, the softening of sadness, the restitching of attention, memory, and mood. And no, this doesn't happen in one night. Sleep is not a switch you flip. It's a slow tide. It rolls in and rolls out. Each night's sleep is a gentle wave, washing the shore of your consciousness. And night after night, little by little, your mind begins to heal. So if you're lying there now, wondering why you felt tired lately, not just in your body, but deep in your thoughts, maybe it's because your mind, ever faithful, has been working so hard to carry you. And maybe tonight it just wants to rest. You don't have to do anything right now. No fixing, no solving, no worrying. Just let the breath come, let the body soften, and let your beautiful mind begin its healing, one breath, one moment, one dream at a time. Because you deserve rest, you deserve healing, you deserve sleep. And so, we begin. Welcome back, dear listener, to the Sleepy Philosopher. I'm so glad you've decided to continue this journey with me. Whether you're listening with the lights dimmed, eyes gently closed, or simply letting the words float by like clouds, you are exactly where you need to be. Tonight, we continue exploring why sleep heals the mind, not through lecture, but through a gentle story, one told in the language of calm. Let us begin again with breath. Softly in, slowly out. Feel the weight of your body begin to sink into whatever is holding you. Let your hands fall open, let your jaw unclench, allow yourself to soften. Because the story we tell tonight is not about doing, it is about being. And sleep, sweet sleep, is nature's kindest invitation to just be. Now, imagine for a moment that we could shrink ourselves down, tiny like a single neuron, and take a gentle ride through your brain. The lights are low, the space vast and beautiful. There are no hard edges here, only the gentle pulsing of a billion tiny signals, like stars blinking on and off in a great night sky. This is the sleeping brain. At first glance, it seems quiet, but look closer. Just beneath the surface, something miraculous is happening. As your body sinks into sleep, your brain shifts into a different mode, like a theater switching scenes. All day long, your mind has been taking in sounds, sights, emotions, sensations, tasks, words, worries, and joys. But at night, it begins to sort them. Not with urgency, not with stress, but with deep, ancient purpose. Your sleep is made of cycles, gentle waves of activity that come and go. The first is called non-REM sleep. This is when your brain begins its cleansing. It's like a quiet librarian walking through the shelves of your memory, dusting the books, putting things back in order, deciding what needs to be kept and what can be let go. Old stresses, anxious thoughts, unused data, they begin to drift away. Then you drift into deeper stages. Delta waves roll in, slow, smooth, rhythmic. These waves are like lullabies sung by the brain to itself. In this state, healing begins. Your neurons rest. They pause from the frenzy of the day. Cellular waste is cleared away. Yes, even the brain has its own cleaning system called the glymphatic system. It flushes out toxins that build up when you're awake. Only during sleep does it fully open up, like a night shift crew quietly moving through the corridors, restoring the rooms. Your immune system is listening too. While you sleep, it gets to work. Inflammation is reduced. Damaged cells begin to repair. If the day has bruised your spirit or your body, sleep is the balm, the healer, the quiet caretaker. But the most magical stage is yet to come. REM, rapid eye movement. This is the stage where dreams are born. Your eyes flicker behind closed lids, your muscles go still, and your mind becomes a theater, a projector, a painter, a storyteller. REM sleep is not just for dreaming, it's for emotional repair. The parts of your brain responsible for logic and planning quiet down. Meanwhile, the emotional centers, the amygdala, the hippocampus, become active. They begin to make sense of your feelings, the confusion, the longing, the joy, the fear. They are re-experienced safely, gently, in dreams. Not to frighten you, but to process them, like letting light into a dark room. You might dream of a past memory, reshaped, or of something that never happened but feels oddly familiar. That's your brain doing its work, stitching emotion to meaning, clearing tension from the day, preparing you to wake with a little more balance than before. And all this repair, this cleansing, this dreaming, happens while you rest, without you lifting a finger. So many people think sleep is passive, that it's doing nothing. But in truth, it's when the real work happens, the kind you can't force, the kind you must surrender to. As we continue our story, imagine now that you are floating, not swimming, not climbing, not trying, just floating, like a feather in the breeze of your own breath. Each inhale carries you slightly upward. Each exhale releases a little more weight. You are safe here. You are supported. You are healing. Let's visit another room of the brain, the hippocampus. This is the memory center. During sleep, it's like a careful gardener, choosing which memories to keep. The important ones are gently planted into long-term storage. The unnecessary ones are allowed to fade. Have you ever noticed how sleep can make a stressful moment feel smaller? That's because your mind has made a decision to keep the lesson and let go of the sting. It's not erasing what happened. It's just choosing how much space to give it. Sleep helps you let go, not by forgetting, but by putting things in perspective. And then there's your prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain, the rational one. During the day, it works so hard to plan, to judge, to analyze. But at night, it gets to rest. It steps back, like a director watching the stage from the wings. It allows other parts of the brain to step forward, the dreamers, the poets, the healers. Sometimes people say, "I'll sleep on it," when they have a big decision. And there's wisdom in that. Because overnight, your brain keeps thinking, but in a different way. A more intuitive way. New connections are made. Solutions arrive unforced. That's not magic. That's sleep. Sleep is not an escape. It's a return to balance, to self, to clarity. You are not lazy for needing it. You are not weak for wanting more of it. You are human, and like every living creature on earth, you're designed to rest. Even trees rest. At night, their leaves droop slightly. Their roots slow their growth. The whole forest breathes quieter under the stars. Even the ocean rests. Waves soften. Tides ease. Even the sun rests, disappearing below the horizon for a time, letting the moon take over, letting the stars shine. So why should you be any different? Now, as you lie there, quiet still, I want you to imagine your thoughts as small boats, each one drifting on a calm sea. You don't need to steer them. You don't need to hold on. Just watch them come and go. There's nothing to do now. No inbox, no to-do list, no expectations. Just breathe, just quiet, just healing. Because this beautiful state of surrender is where your mind begins to heal. Not through force, but through gentleness. Not through doing, but through allowing. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are healing just by being here. And when morning comes, your mind will rise refreshed. Not perfect, not finished, but lighter, clearer, stronger. That is the gift of sleep. And so, dear dreamer, rest well, float freely, let go. Sleep, slow, steady, kind, is already working its quiet magic. And you're doing beautifully. We'll continue soon, but for now, you can stay right here. Still, safe, at peace. Close your eyes, just for a moment. Imagine a soft field, bathed in starlight. There's a warm breeze drifting through, and in the center of this peaceful place is your mind. Not a tangled web of thoughts as it often feels, but a beautiful quiet garden. During the day it's overrun with noise, chattering voices, blinking screens, stress blooming like weeds. But at night, when you sleep, the gardeners come. Yes, in this story, your brain has gardeners. Kind, quiet caretakers that trim, sweep, water, and restore the landscape of your inner world. Their names are glymphatics, microglia, and neurons. Perhaps not the most poetic of titles, but each one has a critical role in healing the mind. And they only come out when you drift off to sleep. Let's begin with the glymphatic system, a cleaning crew that works the night shift. This system is like a network of rivers and pathways in your brain that flush away waste, toxins, and unnecessary debris. But here's the magical part. It only becomes active when you're asleep. When you're awake, the cells in your brain are tightly packed together, too busy transmitting thoughts, feelings, and actions to leave room for the janitors. But as soon as you begin to drift into sleep, the cells shrink. They gently pull away from each other like old friends giving space, and the glymphatic system begins to flow. Picture it as gentle rain running through the streets of your garden, washing away the day's clutter, metabolic waste, bits of used-up proteins, and yes, even beta-amyloid, the sticky plaque associated with Alzheimer's disease. That means every time you sleep deeply, your brain is actively protecting itself from memory loss and cognitive decline. Now, let's meet another group, the microglia. These tiny guardians are like forest rangers and caretakers rolled into one. By day, they observe. By night, they roam. During deep sleep, these cells move through your brain, trimming unused neural branches, cleaning up after chaotic thinking, and pruning the connections that no longer serve you. It's not destruction, it's gardening. Imagine a vine that's grown a bit wild, twisting through too many directions. The microglia gently guide it back into order. This process is called synaptic pruning, and it's how your brain becomes more efficient. The thoughts you use often, like remembering your best friend's face or how to ride a bike, stay strong and supported. But the ones you no longer need, like that parking spot from 3 weeks ago or an argument you've moved past, are quietly let go. Isn't that peaceful? Your brain knows what to keep and what to gently release, but only if you give it the time to sleep. And what about the neurons themselves, the bright stars of your cognitive universe? While you sleep, these electrical messengers take a break from the intensity of waking life. But they don't simply shut off. No, they begin to replay the day, over and over, like a theater performance in a quiet hall. This replay is how memories are formed. As you rest, your hippocampus, the brain's memory librarian, decides what to keep, what to archive, what to let drift away like smoke. Think of it like storytelling. The brain retells the important parts of your day. The moment you laughed with someone, the new name you learned, the task you finally completed. These moments are replayed and moved into long-term memory, like placing treasured books on the shelves of a library that is uniquely yours. Now, here's a gentle reminder. This healing process doesn't begin right away. When you first fall asleep, your brain dips into non-REM sleep. The body relaxes, breathing slows, heart rate softens. But the real magic begins in deep sleep, the stage where your brain waves slow into long, dreamy rhythms called delta waves. It's during this stage that the cleaning crews get to work. The gardeners tend the hedges, and the neurons retell the stories of your day. Eventually, your mind transitions into REM sleep, often called the dream state. This is where imagination takes the wheel. The garden becomes a movie theater, and your mind plays out strange, beautiful scenes, combining memory with metaphor, emotion with insight. Dreams are more than entertainment. They are part of your mind's way of understanding itself. Some researchers believe dreams help you process emotions and solve problems. Have you ever gone to bed feeling stuck, only to wake up with clarity? That's the dream world doing its work. Not in a rush, not in panic. Just quiet, thoughtful healing that happens while you rest. So now, as you lie here, remember that this time you give yourself, this sacred pause from the noise of the world, is not empty. It is full of purpose, healing, restoration. Every breath you take in this quiet moment feeds a system designed to help you survive, thrive, and feel whole. It may seem like nothing is happening while you sleep, but inside your mind, there's a world of motion, a soft, silent orchestra of healing. And it isn't just about the mind. Sleep mends your emotions too. During REM sleep, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, gets a gentle massage. Worries from the day are softened. Night after night, sleep helps recalibrate your mood, smooth out stress, and balance your reactions. It's like a reset button for your emotional core. That's why things often feel less heavy in the morning. Your brain has quietly sorted through the tangle of feelings while you were unaware. Even your sense of identity, your understanding of who you are, is tended to during sleep. As your brain weaves together past experiences, present emotions, and future hopes, it builds a narrative. Your narrative. And just like the garden, your story needs tending, pruning, watering, and rest. But none of this can happen without sleep. Without it, the glymphatic rivers dry up. The microglia become overactive and inflamed, attacking healthy cells. The neurons don't file memories properly. Emotions get tangled, mood frays, and thoughts lose clarity. Imagine a garden that never rests. The soil would harden, the plants would wither, the flowers wouldn't bloom. So too with the mind. Sleep isn't laziness. It's the most essential kind of care. A gift you give your brain. So if you've ever felt guilty for needing rest, I hope you can now see how beautifully necessary it is. You're not a machine. You're a living, growing, feeling being. And just like any garden, you thrive best when you are nurtured. Let's take another breath together now, a little deeper this time. Inhale through your nose. Hold it gently and exhale slowly. Feel your shoulders relax again. Let your hands rest beside you. Let your jaw unclench. You don't need to think right now. You don't need to plan or analyze. Your only job is to be here, to allow the quiet gardeners of your mind to begin their work. As we end this chapter, imagine the lights dimming in your garden, the stars brightening overhead, and the gentle rhythm of your own breath guiding you deeper into rest. Tomorrow will come. But for now, healing begins. Sleep well, traveler of the mind. Close your eyes, not just to the world, but to the weight of thought that has built up like dust on a bookshelf. For tonight, we are not walking through gardens or weaving tales of wandering minds. No, tonight we rest beneath the vaulted ceilings of the inner sanctum, where the dreaming architect quietly lays blueprints. We are not asleep yet, but we are preparing the foundation, brick by brick, breath by breath. You see, within your skull lies not just a brain, but a cathedral of cognition, arched and echoing, filled with chambers of memory, naves of emotion, alcoves of curiosity, and hallways paved with habits. And sleep. Sleep is the architect. Not the builder, not the engineer, but the visionary who draws the lines, sketches the structures, and quietly reshapes the world from within, one dream at a time. All through the day, your mind collects scaffolding, unfinished plans, half-built ideas, stray beams of emotion, and columns of stress. These are left lying around, scattered like construction materials across a city in motion. You may not see them, but they are there. Every choice unmade, every word unspoken, every worry you set aside, waiting for the dreaming architect. And then, when the day's noise fades and the lights dim and your breathing becomes the metronome of stillness, the architect begins. Slowly, carefully, a little sweep here, a rearrangement there, and then the work begins in earnest. Let's visit the prefrontal cortex, your wise and often overworked decision-maker. During wakefulness, it's like the foreman of a bustling construction site, constantly directing traffic, making choices, solving problems. But during sleep, especially the deep, non-REM stages, it finally gets to rest. And in that pause, the dreaming architect walks the site in silence, reviewing blueprints, adjusting designs, preparing new frameworks for tomorrow's choices. But all gardens need tending. All day, the sun shines on your mind. You're awake, you're busy. You're walking through this garden, gathering new things, starting new ideas, reacting, feeling, remembering, choosing. But there's no time to organize, no moment to clear away the old weeds or water what matters most. You are the sower in daylight, but you are not the gardener. Not yet. When night falls, a new presence arrives, not someone you can see or hear, but something you sense. A quiet caretaker, always waiting for you to rest. This is the silent night gardener. And the moment you surrender to sleep, the gardener begins the slow, sacred work of healing. Your body stills, your breathing slows. The light of consciousness begins to dim, and beneath the surface, deep in the roots of your brain, the gardener gets to work. First, it walks the winding paths of memory. It picks up each of the day's experiences, one by one, and gently sorts them. Some are planted deeper into the long-term beds of your memory, the neocortex. Others, no longer needed, are softly removed, released like autumn leaves drifting away. Without sleep, the basket of memory fills too quickly. Without the gardener, the weeds begin to choke the flowers. Your thoughts become tangled, your emotions become sharp. Focus falters, attention slips, and what was once a bright garden becomes overgrown with confusion. But with good sleep, with deep sleep, the garden is tended. The hippocampus releases its fragile bundle of fresh memories. The gardener gently places them in safe, long-lasting places where they'll be easier to find, easier to remember, easier to build upon. There is magic in this invisible work. During deep sleep, slow wave sleep, your brain pulses in slow rhythms, almost like a tide. These waves are not just rest, they are rhythm, they are order, they are clarity washing over chaos. During this time, the night gardener walks silently among the beds of memory, trimming, watering, nourishing. This is also when the glymphatic system awakens. A beautiful and quiet janitor. It flows through your brain like a stream, washing away waste products that built up while you were awake. Beta amyloid, a protein linked to memory loss and cognitive disease, is flushed out in this deep, sacred time. These rivers of sleep do what nothing else can do. Cleanse the very roots of your thinking. Without this cleansing, your mental garden struggles to flourish. As you continue to rest, another phase arrives, REM sleep. The garden changes color. It becomes stranger, softer, more alive with imagination. Here, the gardener does not walk in silence, but dances in dreams. REM sleep is not empty. It is filled with vivid, vibrant experiences. You may not always remember your dreams, but they are real in function. They're emotional processing centers built in the garden's moonlit corners. Here, the gardener picks up old fears and old joys and spins them into story. You relive emotions, not to suffer them again, but to re-understand them, to integrate them. In this place, the amygdala, the part of your brain that senses threat and fear, finally rests. It is soothed, calmed, and your feelings, once tangled and sharp, are made smooth and quiet. That's why, when you've had a good night's sleep, your worries seem smaller. The heartbreak less overwhelming, the anger softer, because the gardener has done its work. The garden of your emotions has been gently weeded, gently swept. Sleep also allows your creativity to bloom. In the daylight, your thoughts often follow the same paths, the well-worn trails of habit, the structured lanes of logic. But in sleep, those walls fall away. The gardener turns over the soil of your imagination, mixing things you didn't even know were connected. That's why, sometimes, you wake up with a new idea, a fresh solution, or a feeling of sudden clarity. You've been rearranged in the most delicate way, not forced, just nudged, just guided. Even your body's cells listen to sleep. Growth hormone is released, muscles repair, organs reset. The immune system strengthens, your skin heals, your heart rests, all while you do nothing but surrender to stillness. The gardener tends not only to thoughts, but to the roots of your being. It is a cycle as old as life itself. Every creature that walks, swims, or flies must eventually close its eyes. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a deep and primal necessity. Evolution has kept sleep sacred, and you, just like the stars and the tides, are made to follow this rhythm. And tonight, this very moment, as you lie still in the dark, the gardener is here. It does not need permission. It only needs your letting go, your deep breath, your soft exhale, the loosening of your grip on everything you carried today. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to solve anything. You don't have to decide. You don't even have to think. That is the gardener's work now. And this is your time to trust that work. Think of a tree that grows without noise, a flower that opens without announcement, grass that drinks dew in the dawn. All of it happens quietly. Growth does not demand attention. Healing does not require noise. Restoration is not loud, it is silent. Software gentle. And you, your body, your mind, your spirit, are no different. Let sleep care for you. Let it walk through the garden of your thoughts, gathering what is ready, releasing what is not. Let it prune your pain, water your joy, clear the clutter. Let it open new spaces inside you. Space for peace, space for new dreams, space for becoming. Your only task now is to rest. Let your limbs grow heavy, like branches bending gently toward the earth. Let your breath be the breeze that rustles the leaves. Let your heartbeat be the roots, slow and steady beneath the surface. Let your thoughts, if they arise, drift by like clouds, seen, acknowledged, and then gone. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to carry. The garden is safe. The gardener is here. Let the night stretch long and dark. Let the stars look down on you with quiet love. Let the earth hold you. Let silence be your cradle. Let this moment be your home. And as sleep slowly carries you into its deepest, most healing places, know that every part of you is being tended, that even when you do nothing, everything is being made whole again. This is your garden. This is your season of rest, and the gardener will stay all through the night until the morning light returns, and you, renewed and blooming, rise again. There is a place far away from the noise of the day, far from the busy thoughts that fill your mind. This place cannot be seen in the light, and it cannot be found on any map. It appears only in the quiet moments, in the soft stillness before sleep. It is called the Island of Forgotten Thoughts. This island floats gently on the sea of your imagination. It is not loud, it is not bright, it is calm, silent, and safe. It is a place where old thoughts go to rest, thoughts you once had but no longer need. Thoughts that were once important, but now feel light, like feathers in the wind. You do not need to remember everything. The mind carries so much each day: names, numbers, plans, memories, worries. But some of these thoughts are not meant to stay forever. Some are only visitors, and when their time is done, they drift away and find this island. On the island of forgotten thoughts, the air is warm and gentle. The breeze smells like rain and sweet flowers. The sky is always soft with clouds, not heavy, just enough to make you feel held, wrapped in a blanket of light. As you walk across the sand, your footsteps make no sound. Each grain is smooth and cool beneath your feet. There is no rush here. There is no pressure. You walk slowly, with no destination. You feel calm. The ocean waves move in and out like a soft breath. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. The rhythm of the sea is the rhythm of your mind slowing down. Each wave takes one thought away. Maybe it is a worry about something you said today. Maybe it is a task you forgot to finish. Maybe it is a small fear about tomorrow. One by one, the ocean takes these thoughts and carries them far out, past the horizon, where they can rest. You do not need them now. You do not need to hold on. As you move farther across the island, you see trees shaped like memories. Some are tall and old, with strong trunks and wide branches. These are the thoughts that shaped you long ago. Your first school, your first friend, a song your parents used to play. Other trees are young and small. These are the thoughts you had last week or last month, less clear, but still part of the forest of your life. Some trees are golden and glowing. These are joyful thoughts, a laugh you shared, a smile from someone you love, a sunset you saw while walking home. These trees shine gently, as if lit from the inside, and you smile because you remember. But not all trees are happy. Some are grey, some are quiet, some are bent like they've carried heavy winds. These are sad thoughts or hard thoughts. They are not bad. They are just resting. They are being held gently by the earth. You walk between them with kindness, not fear, because here all thoughts are accepted. There is no judgment on this island. There is no rush to forget. There is only rest. And when a thought is ready to be let go, it falls like a leaf. Software slow, floating through the air, landing on the soil, becoming part of something deeper, something more peaceful. You walk a little farther, and now you hear music, not loud, not sharp. It is the sound of the wind moving through tall grass. It is the sound of the sea touching the rocks. It is the song of silence, the silence that heals. You sit down on a smooth stone near a quiet pond. In the water, you see your reflection, but it's not the you that others see. It is the quiet you, the calm you, the you that lives beneath all the noise. You smile at this version of yourself because it is real, even if it is quiet. Around the pond, small lights float in the air. These lights are the smallest thoughts, the ones you didn't even notice during the day. A kind word someone said, a warm cup of tea, a soft breeze through the window. These tiny thoughts sparkle like stars. They do not need to be remembered. They only need to be felt gently once. And then, like fireflies, they drift away. You watch them without trying to hold them. You feel a sense of peace, deep peace, the kind that doesn't come from knowing everything, or doing everything, or remembering everything. This peace comes from letting go, from trusting that not all thoughts need to stay, that forgetting is not failure, it is freedom. You lie down on the soft grass, and the earth holds you like a bed. You look up at the sky and see shapes moving slowly. Maybe they are clouds, maybe they are dreams. They are not clear, but that's okay. They do not need to make sense. They are simply there to remind you that your mind is not a machine. It is a garden, a forest, an ocean, and now, an island. The island of forgotten thoughts is part of you, and every night when you close your eyes, it is waiting. Not to take anything from you, but to give you rest, to give you space, to give you silence. You are safe here. You are welcome here. All your thoughts, old and new, bright and dark, can rest here. And you can rest too. Let your breathing grow deeper. Let your body grow heavier. Let your mind slow down. There is nothing you need to do, no problem to solve, no past to hold, no future to fear, only this moment, only this breath, only this peace. Stay here as long as you need, and when you are ready, the island of forgotten thoughts will still be here. Waiting, silent, gentle, home. There is a small town hidden deep in the hills where time walks, not runs, and no one knows its name because no one has ever needed one. People simply call it the Sleepy Town, or sometimes just home. And when you visit this place, everything begins to feel lighter, slower, softer, like the gentle hum of a lullaby. The air here smells like fresh bread and warm sunlight. The clouds drift low and lazy over red rooftops and small, quiet streets. The houses are old but strong, made from wood and stone, painted in soft colors like blue, cream, and rose. Every door creaks open slowly. Every window is half open to let the breeze inside. In this town, the sky never feels too bright or too dark. It always feels like early evening, the perfect time to rest. There are no clocks in the Sleepy Town, no alarms, no reminders. People wake when the birds begin to sing, and they sleep when the stars blink open in the sky. No one worries about being late, because there is nowhere urgent to go. The shops open when the shopkeepers are ready, and they close when the last customer has gone home. On one side of the town, there is a little bakery where the smell of warm rolls and sweet cakes floats through the air all day. The baker wears a soft gray apron and smiles at everyone who walks by. He never hurries. He moves like he is dancing in slow motion. He talks in a soft voice, like he is always about to sing you a song, but never quite does. Across from the bakery is a tiny bookstore where no one ever buys books. They just read them. There are big pillows on the floor and quiet corners where people curl up and forget the time. Some people nap with a book still open on their chest, while others stare at pages without reading, letting their minds drift like paper boats in a stream. In the sleepy town with no name, even the cats move slowly. You will see them napping on windowsills, stretching in the sun, or walking gently along garden walls. They are never scared, never rushed. They seem to understand something about the world that people often forget, that it is okay to pause, to stop, to breathe. There is a small hill behind the town square. On top of the hill, there is an old clock tower, but the hands on the clock do not move. They are stuck forever at twilight, as if the tower itself has chosen never to rush again. Children like to sit there in the late afternoon, eating slices of cool fruit, whispering silly stories to each other, and watching the sky turn slowly from gold to purple. The people in the sleepy town all wear soft clothes, not because they are fashionable, but because comfort is the most important thing here. Their shoes never make a sound on the cobblestone streets. Their laughter is never too loud. Their conversations are gentle, like rain tapping on glass. Even the dogs in this town sleep most of the day, and when they walk, they do so with lazy tails and tired eyes, happy just to be. There is no television in the houses, no big news, no fast cars. At night, people sit outside and listen to the wind. They talk about dreams, or sometimes they don't talk at all. They just sit together, in peace, sharing the silence like a warm blanket. The street lights are shaped like stars, and they glow with a golden light that never hurts your eyes. Some people carry little lanterns instead of phones. These lanterns flicker like fireflies, and the light seems to know exactly where you are going. In the sleepy town, you do not need to remember everything. You do not need to carry every thought. If something is too heavy, you can leave it beside the fountain in the town square, and the water will take it away. The fountain never asks questions. It just flows, soft and clear, singing its own quiet lullaby to the night. In the center of the sleepy town, there is a little hotel. It only has 6 rooms, and the beds are the softest in the world. The pillows smell like lavender, and the blankets feel like clouds. Each room has a balcony, and when you lie in bed, the moonlight dances across the floor. The wind tells stories through the curtains, and the stars watch you sleep with kind eyes. The innkeeper doesn't speak much. She simply smiles and gives you a warm drink with honey and herbs that make your eyes close without even trying. And when you lie in that bed, your breath grows deep, your muscles grow loose, your mind becomes still, like the surface of a calm lake. In the sleepy town with no name, no one is judged for being tired. No one is asked to be more, do more, remember more. Here, rest is not a luxury. It is a way of life. You are not lazy for slowing down. You are wise. You are healing. You are human. As the night deepens, you hear the quiet sounds of the town resting. The wind through the trees, the gentle splash of water. A soft song being hummed somewhere in the distance. You feel the weight of the day melt away. You feel the quiet wrap around you like a warm scarf. You are not alone here. You are not behind. You are not wrong for needing this peace. The sleepy town holds you without asking anything from you. It asks only that you rest, that you breathe, that you allow yourself this moment of stillness. You close your eyes, and in your mind, the streets of the sleepy town stretch out gently, like a dream you never want to wake from. You walk slowly, you smile, you let go. And as the night wraps itself around you, the sleepy town with no name becomes a part of you. A quiet corner inside your heart, always waiting, always ready, whenever you need to return. There was a garden far away, behind a wooden fence, hidden in a quiet corner of the world, where time moved as slowly as the petals of a flower opening to the sun, and where everything grew, not because someone forced it, but because the earth was gentle and kind, and the rain always knew just when to come. The garden was not large, and it was not perfect. Some plants were crooked, some leaves were torn, and some flowers bloomed late, but nothing in the garden ever felt wrong. In this garden there was no need to rush, no need to be the best or the first. Each plant had its own rhythm. Some flowers opened in the morning, and some opened at night. Some trees stayed small, and some reached high into the sky. Some seeds slept for weeks before they woke, and that was okay. No one in the garden asked them to hurry. The soil was soft and warm, like a blanket for roots. It smelled like rain and life and old stories. The worms and bugs and little creatures all lived together peacefully. They never fought over space. They never worried about more. The sun touched every corner of the garden gently, never too hot, never too cold. It smiled through the leaves and played with shadows on the ground. A small path made of smooth stones ran through the garden, curving between the trees and flowers, leading nowhere in particular, just giving your feet a soft place to walk if you wanted to wander and think. In the center of the garden, there was a wooden bench. It was old, and its paint had faded, but it held you like a hug. People who sat there often stayed a long time, not because they had something to do, but because sitting still in the garden felt like the most natural thing in the world. The wind whispered through the trees, not loudly, just enough to make the leaves sway like they were dancing in their sleep. The birds didn't sing big, bright songs here. They hummed soft notes, slow and calm, like a bedtime melody. In this garden, no one expected anything from you. You didn't need to be strong or smart or ready. You could come with heavy thoughts or quiet sadness, and the garden would still hold you. You could cry or sit in silence or smile for no reason. The garden never asked you why. It just listened. Sometimes in the early morning, fog would rise and cover everything in a quiet gray blanket. The flowers looked sleepy, like they were still dreaming. The trees seemed to breathe in and out slowly, and the grass was cool and wet under your feet. The world outside the garden always moved so fast. Cars, phones, people, noise. But inside the garden, time stopped asking questions. It just rested, and so did you. There was an old woman who visited the garden every evening. Her name was not known, but she always wore a big straw hat and carried a small basket. She didn't plant anything new. She didn't try to fix the plants or make them grow faster. She simply walked, touched a leaf here, a flower there, whispered kind words to the trees, and smiled. Sometimes she would sit on the bench and close her eyes, listening to the wind. People said she used to be very busy once, always running, always worrying, until one day she found the garden and never needed to rush again. She taught others to come slowly, to breathe deeply, and to leave their worries outside the wooden fence. The garden taught you that doing nothing was not wasting time. Sitting quietly was not being lazy. Resting was not something to feel bad about. Everything in the garden grew at its own pace, and it was still beautiful. The flowers didn't compete. The trees didn't hurry. The vines curled slowly along the stones, and the moss covered everything gently. Everything had its place. Everything was enough. And so were you. If your mind was busy, the garden slowed it down. If your heart was tired, the garden gave it space to rest. If your thoughts were loud, the garden wrapped them in soft silence. Some people came with questions and left with none. Others came with pain and left with peace. No matter who you were, the garden made room for you. There were no signs, no rules, no loud voices telling you what to do. Just nature, just life, just the quiet rhythm of things growing. You did not have to prove anything. You did not have to change yourself to belong. The garden never asked you to be more than what you already were. And slowly, as you sat or walked or simply breathed in the scent of the earth, you began to believe it too. That maybe you didn't need to be more. Maybe you were already enough. The garden did not bloom every day. Sometimes it slept. Sometimes it waited. And that was okay. Some days the flowers closed their eyes and the trees stood still in silence. Even nature needs to rest. And in that silence there was still beauty. There was still meaning. There was still growth. You could walk through the garden 100 times and see something new each time. A leaf that had fallen, a petal that had opened, a new shade of green that hadn't been there yesterday. Nothing big, nothing loud, but everything real, and every moment the garden gave you was a small gift, a reminder that the slow moments matter too. That peace is not the opposite of progress. That stillness is not emptiness. That healing takes time. When you finally stood up to leave the garden, you felt lighter. Not because everything had changed, but because you had stopped trying to carry it all. You had breathed, you had rested, you had remembered what it felt like to just be. And the garden had given you that without asking for anything in return. You walked back through the wooden gate, slowly, softly, like a leaf floating on water. And though the garden faded behind you, it stayed in your heart, always quiet, always kind, always ready whenever you needed to come home again. Not to fix anything, not to solve everything, but just to rest, to grow slowly, to feel enough, just as you are. There was a forest that few people knew about, hidden behind long hills and soft rivers, where morning mist rose every day like a curtain of dreams, covering the trees and the ground and even the sky in a soft, white silence, as if the world was still asleep and didn't want to be disturbed. In the middle of this forest, there was something strange, something quiet, something almost forgotten. A mirror. Not a mirror on a wall, and not one made by human hands, but a tall, standing mirror with a wooden frame made of old forest branches, curved like vines, soft with moss and touched by time. And it stood alone between 4 pine trees where the grass was short, and the light fell gently. No one knew who put the mirror there. No one knew when or why. It had no carvings, no marks, no sign, no owner. It was just there. And yet the mirror did not reflect things the way other mirrors did. It did not show your clothes or your hair or the way your face looked when you were tired. It did not show dust or shadows or the little things people often worry about when they look at themselves. This mirror was different. It showed who you were inside, but only if you stood very still, only if you were quiet, only if you let go of the noise in your head and listened to the sound of your own breath. When people found the mirror, they often did not know what to do. Some stood in front of it and saw nothing but the mist around them. Some waited, and something began to appear. Not fast, not sharp, but soft, like a memory or a feeling. The mirror did not speak, but somehow it told the truth. A girl once stood in front of the mirror, and for many minutes she saw nothing but fog. But then she saw her own eyes. Not the color or shape, but the feeling behind them. She saw kindness she had forgotten. She saw hope that had been quiet for too long. She sat down in front of the mirror and cried, not because she was sad, but because she remembered that she was still there. That her true self had not gone away, only hidden. A man with heavy shoulders came one morning, walking slowly, as if every step carried years of worry. He stood in front of the mirror and saw a little boy smiling back. Not a ghost, not a trick, but a part of himself he had lost. The boy in the mirror had joy in his eyes, and the man began to remember what it felt like to laugh without reason, to play without fear, to be soft without shame. He did not say a word. He just watched, and slowly his shoulders felt lighter. The forest said nothing. The trees did not move. The mist danced gently around the mirror, like it was guarding something precious. You did not need to explain yourself to the mirror. You did not need to wear anything special or speak any special words. You only needed to be honest with yourself. If you came with anger, the mirror showed you the wound beneath it. If you came with fear, it showed you the part of you still holding on to hope. If you came with pride, it showed you the soft voice asking to be loved. If you came with sadness, it showed you that healing begins with being seen. But if you came pretending or trying to be someone you were not, the mirror stayed silent, and the mist covered everything like a blanket, asking you gently to try again. Later. The mirror was not a judge. It did not punish or praise. It only reflected truth, and only when you were ready. People who visited the mirror often stayed for a long time. Not because they were looking at themselves, but because they were seeing themselves, perhaps for the first time in a long time. And sometimes they didn't see anything at all, and that was okay too. The mirror was patient. It was never in a hurry. It waited until you were quiet enough to see, until your heart spoke more loudly than your thoughts, until your breath matched the rhythm of the trees, until you could sit without needing to be anyone and just be yourself. And even then, it showed you only what you needed to see, not all at once, not too much, just enough to take one step closer to yourself. The mirror had no power to change you, but it helped you remember that you had the power to change, if you wanted to. It helped you see the part of you that still cared, still hoped, still dreamed, even when the world outside felt cold, or confusing, or hard. A boy once came to the mirror with his arms crossed and his face full of doubt. He said nothing. He thought the mirror was silly, just a story. But as he stood there, the mist began to clear, and he saw not a boy, not a child, but someone standing strong through every storm, someone who had been hurt but still loved, someone who had fallen but always stood back up. And for the first time, he looked at himself with respect, not because he was perfect, but because he had kept going. The mirror helped people see that they were not their mistakes, not their past, not their fears. They were more, always more. The mist around the mirror stayed soft, like a dream. The air was cool, but not cold. Birds flew quietly between the trees, but they never sang too loud. Even the forest seemed to whisper instead of speak. This was a place made for reflection, not noise, for softness, not speed, for being, not doing. People who left the mirror always walked away slowly. They looked at the trees differently. They breathed more deeply. They didn't speak for a while, not because they were sad, but because they had touched something real, something quiet and deep inside themselves. And sometimes they returned. Not because they needed answers, but because they missed the feeling of being truly seen. The mirror never changed. It stood in the same place, year after year, through snow and rain and sun, and though the mist came and went, though seasons passed and leaves fell and grew again, the mirror was always there, not for the eyes, but for the heart. It was not a magical mirror. It did not grant wishes or tell the future. It only gave you what you brought, gently, kindly, softly, a reflection, a truth, a reminder, that inside you is something worth seeing, that inside you is something beautiful, even if it's quiet, even if it's hidden, even if the world outside doesn't always notice. And sometimes, late in the evening, when the sky was blue and silver and the forest was full of long shadows, the mirror would shine softly as if lit from within. Not bright, just a glow, a whisper, a quiet promise that no matter how far you go, no matter how lost you feel, there is always a place where you can come back to yourself, where the mist will clear, where the silence will hold you, where you will be enough, just as you are. There was once a quiet village near the edge of a great valley where the wind sang through the hills, and the nights were long and full of stars, but not many people stayed out after the sun went down because of an old story, a story passed from one person to another in whispers, a story about a man who walked alone in the dark, not with fear, but with peace, and people called him the man who spoke to shadows. He was not famous and not feared. He was just known, like a soft breeze that always passed through the same tree or the way the moon returned again and again without asking permission. No one knew where he came from or where he went at night, but many believed he was once just like them. Someone who lived with worry, someone who carried heavy thoughts, someone who had forgotten how to rest. But something had changed in him, something deep, something invisible. It was said that many years ago he had lost someone he loved, a mother perhaps, or a friend, or maybe even a part of himself that could not be named. After that, he stopped talking much during the day. He listened more than he spoke. He watched the clouds, he listened to the wind, and then one evening, while sitting under an old tree, something inside him broke and opened at the same time, like a shell cracking to let out the soft seed within. That night he did not sleep. He walked into the forest, into the shadows, into the places people avoided, and instead of running away from the dark, he sat with it. He stayed, and the shadows, which once seemed scary, began to feel different. They were not loud, they were not cruel, they were just quiet. They had been waiting, perhaps, for someone to sit with them without fear. From that day on, the man returned to the dark every night, and every night the shadows welcomed him like an old friend. He did not carry a lantern. He did not bring tools. He brought only himself and his silence and his willingness to listen. People in the village said he could hear things that others could not. Soft voices from the past, forgotten wishes, the quiet sadness of old trees, the laughter of memories left behind in corners. But he never said these things out loud. He just smiled softly, gently, like someone who had seen many things and learned that some truths are best held in the heart, not the mouth. Sometimes, children would follow him, trying to see what he saw, trying to find magic in the darkness. But the man would turn slowly, look at them kindly, and whisper, "Not yet." And they would nod and return home, not afraid, just knowing it wasn't their time to walk with shadows. He did not teach by words. He taught by presence, by calmness, by the way he moved through the night without rushing, without pushing, without needing to prove anything. When people asked him why he walked in the dark, he would simply say, "The shadows have stories too." And that was all. People began to notice small things after watching him. They noticed that the night was not empty. It was full of sounds, of feelings, of things too soft for the day to hold. They noticed that silence was not lonely. It was deep. And in that depth, something inside them stirred. Something gentle, something true. The man who spoke to shadows did not live in a grand house. He lived in a small wooden cabin with only one window that looked toward the hills. He had a garden of herbs and soft grass, and a chair that faced the moonlight. He did not speak much to others, but when he did, his voice was warm, like a fire that had been burning slowly for hours, not bright or sharp, but steady and comforting. People sometimes brought him questions about sadness, about love, about life and why it hurt sometimes, and he would listen for a long time before answering, and when he spoke, it was never an answer, really, but a story, or a silence, or a suggestion to go and sit with the night and see what it tells you. Some people said he had gone mad, but others said he had gone deeper into himself than most people ever dared to go. They said he had learned to hold pain gently, without trying to fight it. They said he had made peace with the things he could not change. And maybe, just maybe, that was not madness at all. It was a kind of wisdom. The shadows loved him, they said, because he did not fear them. He understood that light and dark were not enemies, but partners, always dancing, always moving, always helping each other be seen. Without shadow, light has no shape. Without light, shadow has no meaning. And the man walked between them like a bridge. One night, during the longest winter, when the stars were cold and clear, a young woman came to him with tears in her eyes and asked, "How do I stop the pain?" The man did not speak at first. He placed a hand on her shoulder and pointed toward the forest. "Sit with it," he said. "Not to make it go away, just to know it better." She was confused. She thought healing meant removing pain, but he showed her another way, a softer way, a way of listening to the sadness without trying to fix it too fast, a way of saying, "I see you," to the hurt inside instead of pushing it away. And slowly, over many nights, she too began to understand. She began to walk into the shadows without fear, and in time, she became calm. She smiled more. Not the smile of someone who had forgotten pain, but the smile of someone who was no longer afraid of it. That is the power of the man who spoke to shadows. He did not erase darkness. He walked with it, and in doing so, he helped others walk with their own. The villagers still speak of him, even though he is gone now. Some say he became a shadow himself, always nearby, always listening. Some say he became the wind, moving through trees and whispering to those who are quiet enough to hear. Others say he was just a man, like any other, who found peace by facing what others feared. But all agree on one thing. He left behind a gift. Not a thing, not an object, but a way of being. A way of breathing slowly, of walking gently, of listening deeply to the parts of life that are often ignored. And so, when the night comes, and the wind grows soft, and the stars begin to rise, there are those who still step outside their homes, barefoot on the earth, quiet in their hearts, and they walk slowly into the dark, not to escape the world, but to meet it, fully, even its shadows. And in that meeting they find something real, something true, something soft and strong at the same time. They find themselves. And so, the man who had walked through dreams, through memories, through forests, through mountains, through rain and heat and cold and silence, who had searched and waited and hoped and cried, came at last to the place where the road ended, not with a wall, not with a gate, not even with a sign, but with a simple stillness, a quiet breath that said softly, "This is enough." He stood there, looking out into the open space before him, where the sky touched the earth in a long, soft line, and there was no one there, not the love he had longed for, not the person he had once known in dreams, not the voice that had guided him, not the past, not the future, only now, only this, only the moment he was standing in, with the sun behind him and the wind brushing gently past his shoulders like an old friend returning home. And in that stillness, in that wide and empty space, he felt something he had never felt before. It was not joy, it was not sorrow. It was something else, something quieter than happiness, softer than peace, something like understanding. He thought of all the nights he had stayed awake, waiting for letters that never came, all the words he had written in his mind but never said out loud, all the times he had imagined her face, her hands, her smile, and all the places he had gone looking for something that could not be touched. And now, here he was, not with her, but with himself. And for the first time, he was not angry, he was not sad, he was simply here. The man sat down on the ground, the same way he had sat many times before, under trees, beside rivers, near mountains. But this time, it felt different. He was not waiting anymore. He was not moving anymore. He was just being. And as he closed his eyes, he heard not the voice of the woman he had been chasing for so long, but his own breath, deep and slow, like the rhythm of the world itself. He remembered everything, not as pain, but as part of the road, part of the path that had brought him here. He remembered the letters that never came, and he smiled. He remembered the empty bench by the sea, and he smiled. He remembered the shadow of her that followed him for so long, and he smiled again, not because he had found her, but because he had finally found himself. In all the walking, all the searching, all the dreaming, what he had really been looking for was this quiet, this soft place inside him that no one could give him, and no one could take away. And the wind whispered to him, as it had so many times before, but now it did not say, "Go." It said, "Rest." And he did. He rested not just his body, but his thoughts, his hopes, his memories. He let them all settle, like leaves falling slowly to the ground. And in that rest, in that soft and endless stillness, he finally understood. The journey had never been about reaching her. It had been about becoming someone who could walk through love and loss, through silence and shadow, and still remain gentle. It had been about learning how to hold emptiness like a gift, and how to see beauty in what was never finished. He never reached his love, but maybe he was never meant to. Maybe she was never a person to be found, but a feeling to be remembered. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The road did not lead him to her, but it led him back to the place where love had first begun, inside his own quiet heart. And there, in the stillness, in the light, in the wind, the man who never reached his love became the man who no longer needed to. And he was free. After the man sat quietly at the end of his long road, with peace resting on his shoulders like a soft blanket, he felt something small and strange in his heart, like a whisper from the past asking to be heard again, not loudly, not with pain, but with kindness, like a breeze that wanted to touch old pages once more. He stood up slowly, his body gentle like the morning sun, and he reached into his old travel bag that had grown dusty with time. Inside were folded papers, some torn at the edges, some faded by rain and years, some never opened, letters he had written to her but never sent, letters she may have written in his dreams, letters he once held close to his chest on long nights of waiting. He walked to a quiet field where tall grass moved like ocean waves in slow motion, and there, with no one watching, he opened the first letter. The paper shook a little in his hands. Not from the wind, but from memory. He read the words silently, the ones he had written years ago. I miss you, but I don't know why. I remember your voice even though I've never heard it. And as he read, he smiled. Not with sadness, but with a softness that comes from understanding that some feelings are real, even when they never had a place to live. One by one he opened each letter, reading them slowly like tasting something sweet and old. Each word, each sentence, was like a feather from the past falling gently through his thoughts. He remembered how strong his love had once felt, how far he had walked with it in his chest, how lonely and beautiful it had been. Then, without planning, without fear, he began to let the letters go. One at a time he released them into the wind. The paper lifted, danced, and flew, not in a hurry, not in sadness, but as if it had been waiting for this moment, to be free. The letters flew across the golden field, spinning and twirling, carried by the breeze like birds that had finally found their wings. He watched them go and whispered to the air, "Thank you." Not to her, not to the past, but to everything, to the journey, to the quiet, to the love that lived inside him. The man felt lighter, not because the letters were gone, but because they no longer needed to be held. He did not need answers. He did not need her. He had become someone new, someone who could carry love without needing it returned, someone who could remember without being lost in the memory. The sky above him was soft and wide. The wind wrapped around him like an old lullaby. He stood in that field until the last letter disappeared into the clouds, and then he closed his eyes, not to sleep, not to dream, but to feel the calm that had grown from the emptiness. It was not silence, it was not waiting, it was something better, something like peace. And so, the man who once chased love across time and space stood with open hands and an open heart, knowing that even if he never reached her, the love had never been wasted. It had always been a part of him, and now it was free. He remembered the letters that never came, and he smiled. He remembered the empty bench by the sea, and he smiled. He remembered the shadow of her that followed him for so long, and he smiled again. Not because he had found her, but because he had finally found himself. In all the walking, all the searching, all the dreaming, what he had really been looking for was this quiet, this soft place inside him that no one could give him and no one could take away. And the wind whispered to him as it had so many times before, but now it did not say go. It said rest. And he did. He rested, not just his body, but his thoughts, his hopes, his memories. He let them all settle, like leaves falling slowly to the ground. And in that rest, in that soft and endless stillness, he finally understood. The journey had never been about reaching her. It had been about becoming someone who could walk through love and loss, through silence and shadow, and still remain gentle. It had been about learning how to hold emptiness like a gift, and how to see beauty in what was never finished. He never reached his love, but maybe he was never meant to. Maybe she was never a person to be found, but a feeling to be remembered. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The road did not lead him to her, but it led him back to the place where love had first begun. Inside his own quiet heart, and there, in the stillness, in the light, in the wind, the man who never reached his love became the man who no longer needed to. And he was free. After the man sat quietly at the end of his long road, with peace resting on his shoulders like a soft blanket, he felt something small and strange in his heart, like a whisper from the past asking to be heard again, not loudly, not with pain, but with kindness, like a breeze that wanted to touch old pages once more. He stood up slowly, his body gentle like the morning sun, and he reached into his old travel bag that had grown dusty with time. Inside were folded papers, some torn at the edges, some faded by rain and years. Some never opened, letters he had written to her but never sent, letters she may have written in his dreams, letters he once held close to his chest on long nights of waiting. He walked to a quiet field where tall grass moved like ocean waves in slow motion, and there, with no one watching, he opened the first letter. The paper shook a little in his hands, not from the wind, but from memory. He read the words silently, the ones he had written years ago. I miss you, but I don't know why. I remember your voice, even though I've never heard it. And as he read, he smiled, not with sadness, but with a softness that comes from understanding that some feelings are real, even when they never had a place to live. One by one he opened each letter, reading them slowly like tasting something sweet and old. Each word, each sentence, was like a feather from the past falling gently through his thoughts. He remembered how strong his love had once felt, how far he had walked with it in his chest, how lonely and beautiful it had been. Then, without planning, without fear, he began to let the letters go. One at a time he released them into the wind. The paper lifted, danced, and flew, not in a hurry, not in sadness, but as if it had been waiting for this moment to be free. The letters flew across the golden field, spinning and twirling, carried by the breeze like birds that had finally found their wings. He watched them go and whispered to the air, "Thank you." Not to her, not to the past, but to everything, to the journey, to the quiet, to the love that lived inside him. The man felt lighter, not because the letters were gone, but because they no longer needed to be held. He did not need answers. He did not need her. He had become someone new, someone who could carry love without needing it returned, someone who could remember without being lost in the memory. The sky above him was soft and wide. The wind wrapped around him like an old lullaby. He stood in that field until the last letter disappeared into the clouds, and then he closed his eyes, not to sleep, not to dream, but to feel the calm that had grown from the emptiness. It was not silence, it was not waiting, it was something better, something like peace. And so, the man who once chased love across time and space stood with open hands and an open heart, knowing that even if he never reached her, the love had never been wasted. It had always been a part of him, and now it was free. Long after the letters had flown into the wind and the man had found peace in the empty field, he began walking again, not with the same heavy steps of longing, but with a lightness that came from release, as if the earth beneath his feet had softened and the sky above had forgiven him for all the silent prayers he once whispered into the night. And soon his quiet steps led him to a house. Not a grand house or a broken one, but a small, quiet place made of old wood and soft shadows, sitting alone on the edge of a sleepy hill, surrounded by wildflowers that leaned gently in the breeze like old friends waiting for his return. And though he had never seen this house before, it felt strangely familiar, like something he had dreamed long ago but forgotten. So he opened the door without knocking, without fear, and inside, the house was filled with echoes, not of voices, but of feelings, warmth, sadness, hope, waiting, love. And the walls seemed to breathe with memory, not painful memory, but memory softened by time. And he walked slowly through the rooms, touching the furniture, as if to ask permission to stay a little while. And in one corner of the house, by a dusty window, he found a chair and a table with an old teacup resting there, untouched but not unloved, as if someone had placed it there long ago and hoped he would find it. And when he sat down, the chair creaked kindly beneath him, like it too remembered him from some other life. And as he looked out the window, he could hear the wind outside singing through the cracks of the house, carrying with it soft echoes of his own journey, the footsteps on long roads, the letters in the field, the dreams he had let go, and even the silence he had once feared now felt like a gentle companion, no longer empty but full of invisible hands, holding him steady. And in that house of echoes, he rested, not because he was tired, but because he had finally found a place where time did not rush, where love did not ache, and where his heart no longer needed to search for something it had already found within itself. And as the sun began to set beyond the hill, casting golden light through the window like a blessing, the man closed his eyes. Not to forget, not to sleep, but to listen, to the echoes, to the stillness, to the home he had unknowingly carried with him all along. He left the house of echoes with no sadness in his heart, only a stillness that felt like peace. There was no need to hurry now. The road had stopped demanding, and the air no longer carried the pressure of time. The man walked slowly, his hands in his coat pockets, and the sky stretched wide above him, painted in soft blues and fading golds. He walked until the land began to slope gently downward, and the scent of salt crept into the breeze. Then, as if the world had been waiting for this moment, he reached the sea. It was not a loud sea, not wild with waves or angry with storms. It was calm, endlessly calm, stretching into the horizon like a great silver mirror. The tide whispered instead of crashing, as if it too had found a kind of peace. The beach was smooth and empty, scattered with driftwood, shells, and time. He stood at the edge of the water and listened. Not for voices, not for signs, just for the sound of the ocean breathing. And then he saw it, a small boat resting near the shore, old but strong, gently rocking with the waves. It wasn't tied or anchored. It had no name painted on its side, no sail to carry it forward. It was just there, as though it had been waiting only for him. He walked toward it, every step leaving a soft print in the sand. The boat did not shine or boast. It did not promise a destination. But it felt right, like a final chapter written before the book was opened. He stepped inside. The boat accepted his weight without question. He sat down, and the boat drifted out slowly, as if moved not by wind or tide, but by understanding. The shore grew smaller behind him, the sky wide and open before. He didn't wonder where he was going, and for the first time in his life, he didn't need to know. The ocean was enough. Time passed in a way he could no longer measure. The water became a soft cradle, rocking him gently from side to side. The sky dimmed, the stars began to show, and the moon rose full and low, hanging just above the sea like a silver lantern. He leaned back and looked up at it, and something in his chest unknotted. Not because he had found what he had once sought, but because he had stopped needing it. Memories came and went like waves brushing against the side of the boat. He saw her face, clear, kind, distant, not as something to hold on to, but as a part of himself that would always be there. He remembered laughter under trees, the quiet sadness of departure, the taste of goodbye, and he remembered the long road, the letters, the fields, the house of echoes. All of it, not with sorrow but with a kind of reverence, as if it had all been necessary to bring him here, to this ocean, to this quiet, to this understanding. Somewhere in the dark water, he saw light moving beneath the surface, small and slow, like stars that had fallen into the sea. Fish, perhaps, or maybe dreams. It didn't matter. Everything here was soft and without urgency. He let his hand drift into the water, felt the cool touch of it against his fingers, and smiled. Sleep came not as a thief, but as a friend. It did not pull him under. It simply wrapped around him like a warm blanket and let him rest. In that sleep, he dreamt, not of searching, not of waiting, not of loss, but of floating through the sky like a cloud, weightless, open, free. And in that dream, he understood something. Love was never about arrival. It was about motion, about feeling, about carrying something sacred with you wherever you went. When he awoke, he was not surprised to find the boat had stopped. It rested now beside a small island, a round, green place with trees that swayed in the soft wind and flowers that nodded in greeting. He stepped out of the boat, barefoot now, the sand warm beneath his feet. He walked into the trees, and the trees made a path for him, quiet and kind. In the center of the island, he found a bench beneath a flowering tree. It had been built long ago, its wood weathered and smooth. He sat. Around him, birds sang softly, and the leaves whispered above. It was a place meant not for questions, but for being. He stayed there for a long time. Days, maybe, or moments. He did not count. The island asked for nothing. It offered only rest, and in that rest, the man who had never reached his love found something better. He found presence. The love he had searched for, longed for, dreamed of. It lived in the silence, in the sea, in the breeze, in himself. And so, the story of the man who never reached his love did not end in despair. It did not end with loss. It ended with arrival, not at a place or a person, but at peace. The boat, patient and still, remained by the shore. Perhaps it waited for another traveler. Perhaps it would one day return to the sea, carrying another soul toward stillness. But for now, it rested, and so did he. Not because the journey was over, but because he had finally found a place within where nothing was missing. The man who had walked through longing and silence, who had written letters and let them go, who had followed paths and faced the wind, had come home. And in the quiet arms of the island, beneath the whispering branches of the flowering tree, he closed his eyes, not in sleep this time, but in complete, endless peace. Because love, he had learned, was never far away. It was always here. And so we come to the gentle close of our journey, the final stretch of this sleepy path through the whispering meadows of the mind and the twilight valleys of thought. By now, you have wandered through the many quiet corners of what rest truly does for you, how sleep cradles your being, how it holds your memories like pressed flowers between pages, how it carries your pain out to sea and brings back calm in the tide. But tonight, as we reach the end, there is only one thing left to explore: the gentle return. What is the gentle return? It is that sacred space between sleep and waking, a place not quite here and not quite there, a threshold where your dreaming mind begins to loosen its hold and your waking self begins to stir. It is delicate, fragile, like morning mist lifting from a lake, and yet it is deeply powerful. Because in this moment, your mind carries forward all that sleep has given you: rest, repair, reorganization, renewal. While you slept, your body slowed, your heartbeat softened, your breath became the lullaby of your cells, and your brain, oh, your brain, became a cathedral of healing. The glymphatic rivers flowed, cleansing the alleys and avenues of thought. The memories from yesterday found their shelves. The fears that haunted your dreams were released like birds into an open sky. And now, slowly, the light begins to rise within you. You may not feel it all at once. No, the return is not a burst. It is a gentle unfolding, like a rose opening to morning sun, one petal at a time. You begin to remember who you are, but this time softer, a little lighter, because sleep did not erase you, it restored you. It took the noise and polished it into clarity. It took the ache and pressed it into wisdom. Even now, as you lie still, your subconscious hums softly beneath your thoughts. A mind recalibrated, balanced, less brittle. The stress of the day before has been filed away, some of it composted into growth, the rest tossed out with the mental refuse. And now, the self that wakes is new, still you, always you, but just a little stronger, a little steadier. You see, every night is a story, a cycle, a return to the self. We fall into sleep as one version of ourselves, and we rise again shaped by dreams, cleansed by quiet, reborn in rest. The sleep you give yourself is an offering, a sanctuary, and with each night you surrender to its care, you are saying yes to healing, yes to resilience, yes to life. In ancient traditions, sleep was seen as a cousin to death, not a fearsome end, but a vital pause, a mini rebirth, a divine silence, and maybe they were on to something. Because every morning, without remembering how, you rise again, you breathe again, you feel again. And isn't that a miracle worth cherishing? So as we step out of this final chapter, remember this: your mind is not a machine. It is a garden, a storm, a temple, a sky. It does not run on willpower alone. It needs sleep, like flowers need darkness, like forests need winter. Not just for stillness, but for survival, for blooming. Let this be your new beginning, a vow, if you will, between you and your mind. to honor its rhythms, to listen to its needs, to stop chasing wakefulness like a badge of honor, and instead embrace rest as a sacred right. Because healing doesn't just come in action. Often, it comes in stillness, in surrender, in sleep. Tonight and every night forward, may you find peace not just in your dreams, but in the knowing that while you sleep, you are healing, you are not falling behind, you are not wasting time, you are becoming whole. And when you wake next, whenever that may be, may you rise gently, slowly, like a leaf catching the light, carrying with you the quiet strength of all that has been repaired in the dark. You have traveled far, you have done enough. Rest now, dear thinker. Your mind is safe, your body is grateful. And the story of sleep, the story of healing will always be here, whenever you need it. Good night, and thank you for dreaming with me.